The air hummed with late evening stillness, thick with the scent of jasmine drifting through a cracked window. Shadows pooled in the corners, interrupted by the amber glow of a lamp grazing an unmade bed and a collarbone's edge. A drawer clicked, machinery whirred to life. Vibrations buzzed against skin like moth wings testing a screen, slow rhythms syncing with the room's sway as heat pooled low between breaths. The device stuttered, stopped, then surged with alien rhythm. Waves crashed instead of ebbed. Fingertips grazed the line between plastic and skin, questioning its role as tool and trespasser. A floorboard creaked through the wall. Electric silence buzzed louder than machinery, chests rising in unison down the hall, exhales tangling through drywall with citrus-sharp tension. The device purred a language of almost and not yet. Beneath plastic casing, someone else's cadence pulsed through marrow, through walls vibrating with unvoiced desire. Darkness throbbed with the threat of laughter or lightning. Eyes widened, not at the machine's rhythm, but at the realization of shared breath echoing through thin walls. Fingertips drummed a counterpoint to the machine's hum. Heat pulsed where plastic met damp silk, the fabric clinging like a second skin charged with static. The pause stretched. A held breath where citrus and jasmine tangled. Machinery's residual buzz hummed in teeth, in wrists pressed too hard against mattress springs. When the rhythm resumed, it carried fingerprints not their own. The device laughed in binary, a foreign algorithm mapping fault lines beneath trembling skin. Through plaster, a muffled gasp synced with their own. The walls breathed wet silk and salt, barriers dissolving with every shared vibration humming in unison. Lightning without thunder, teeth sank into a lip instead of screams. The machine's insistence built cathedral arches of tension in the charged air. A palm hit plaster in accidental percussion. The wall became drumskin, transmitting shudders through bone, four hands now playing the same fevered composition. Machinery crescendoed, then died. In the vacuum, only wet breaths and the creak of bed springs carrying 24 unanswered questions. The last vibration faded into dawn's chorus. Jasmine gave way to burnt circuitry ozone, the taste of copper where skin had met teeth in silence. Do you feel this too? Hung unspoken in collapsing air, somewhere 2 doors remained shut, but through the walls phantom pulses echoed. The silence between walls grew teeth. Ghost fingers traced plaster grooves where their palm prints still lingered warm, a braille confession of almost. Morning bled through blinds, striping the skin with bars of gold and shadow. Your smoke still haunts the air vent. I count each exhale, measure its density against mine. When the radiator kicks on, we become lungs sharing the same hot breath. Carbon monoxide intimacy purring through peeling pipes. My collarbone remembers vibrations not its own. Fever sparks still skip between ribs like stones across the neural lake. In the shower, steam writes temporary tattoos of what their mouth didn't, water droplets becoming braille down trembling sternum ridges. We pass in the hallway at 11,003. Your soap wears the scent of chill-stung oranges, and suddenly every nerve is orchard. Our shoulders don't touch. Don't! But the space between charges like live wire dormant until there's a note slipped beneath my door. Not paper, but the wet gleam of peach pulp on the shared windowsill, juice weeping into wood grain and Rorschach invitations. I let nectar glue my fingers together. Let the syrup drip carve fault lines toward wrists still singing from last night's electric psalms. Somewhere behind plaster, a pen bites paper. The scratch becomes a whisper, becomes teeth. My window fogs with withheld words. A mirrored surface where 2 breaths mingle unseen, spelling "what if" in cursive streaks of condensation. Every stripe of light becomes a parallel path left unchosen. The radiator's hum syncs with the rhythm of remembered breaths. Water droplets trace the map of absence down porcelain skin. Steam whispers what daylight won't acknowledge. The peach's flesh yields like unspoken confessions. Juice stains bloom like phantom bruises on birchwood. Neck hairs rise as scent. Memory strikes, chill stung oranges and the salt warmth of almost contact. The hallway breathes with ghosts of movement. Condensation patterns bloom and fade, transient alphabets of desire. The glass holds the shape of breaths that never met. A draught under the door shivers the honey stain on my thigh, your shadow pooling where thresholds dissolve. Velvet dusk puts its mouth to the glass. Footprints of crushed mint linger in the air. I count each knob of my spine against the wall, naming the vertebrae like beads on the cord between here and there. A spoon rings against a cup in the next room. Vibration. Through the keyhole's thin cathedral, I chart the arch of your clavicle altar of withheld benediction. Incense smoke trembles where the air turns fever thick. The clock's pendulum slows. Even dust motes hover mid-spiral, drunk on the gravity of doors left 3/4 unlatched. My palm hovers above the handle. Magnetic, molten, the exact distance required for combustion. What splits the silence? The creak of a floorboard swallowed mid-sigh. A candle gutters, wax weeping in white cursive. My pulse tongues the edges of a question too soft to ruin with crude consonants. The counterweight of spare ribs when you shift. The friction burn in every hinge. This close, even breath is a dare. Between us, a wire hums taut as a vow before it shatters. Your exhale ghosts the nape of my neck. Lemon oil and bergamot linger where your collar is frayed, sharp and sweet as the first betrayal of a storm. Static arcs from shelf to wrist, my bones become tuning forks, vibrating with the frequency of a name I won't shape. A book tumbles behind us. Spine-weathered lavender pages splaying open to this moment, forbidden alphabets spilling into shadow. Thunder's precursor thrums under skin, sweat pooling like liquid mercury. In the window's reflection, your throat bobs. A confession trapped in amber. I count the freckle beneath your earlobe as if it's a bead on a rosary. That close! The linen of your sleeve grazes my arm. Blistering. My fingers curl against the paradox. Ice flame departure, return, the way twilight grips the horizon and murmurs, "Not yet." Your head tilts. Just enough to map the architecture of a breath we're stealing or being stolen by. The candle drowns. Windows rattle with the weight of all we're not saying. Somewhere, a string snaps. Somewhere else, I forget the difference between surrender and collapse. Your pulse flickers against the silence, a moth's wing grazing a lit bulb. Raw, reckless, resonant enough to rewrite the dark, sweat pooling like liquid mercury, the way twilight grips the horizon and murmurs, "Not yet!" A breath clings to my lip, stolen, borrowed, suspended between commandment and heresy. The air hums. A glass trembles on the ledge. Your exhale tastes of bergamot and indecision, seeding the hollow beneath my collarbone. Shadows braid themselves around our ankles, rooting us to the spot. To move would fracture the fragile grammar of this almost. Lightning crawls up the nape of my neck. Your gaze follows it. We've become a sonnet of almost touches. The braille of heat between fingers not quite aligned. Your shirt drifts against me, half a heartbeat, a sigh of starch and salt before retreating. The room contracts, expands, the dusk gnaws at its own edges. Something in the hallway shivers. A photo frame? A ghost? My reflection fragments in the sweat on your water glass, my outline liquefying, dissolving into the curve where your palm once rested. You lean. A millimeter. A seismic shift. The scent of your restraint floods the space between us, smoke and peeled oranges, bitter and bright. My ribcage echoes. The night folds itself into tighter creases. A clock chokes on its own hour. Static climbs my spine, each vertebra a lit fuse. And then, your thumb. Brushing a strand of hair from my temple. Featherlight. Final. A verdict. Whisper. A whisper. A promise, decomposing into ions. In the aftermath, only the pendulum of your throat bobs, confessing what your lips refuse. The air tastes of petrol and unmade decisions. Your exhale stirs the fine hairs at my nape, a weather system shifting, inevitable. We become a held dissonance, two notes trembling on the same string. You lean closer. Not movement, but gravity reconfigured. Your collar shifts, releasing a bourbon salt scent that unspools something in the marrow. I count your pulse through the humid space between us. 5 centimeters, an epoch. My skin hums like a power line after rain. You let your pinky graze the dip above my wrist. An accident? A heresy? The room tilts, all its angles dissolving into smoke. I think of deserts. Mirage, water, how the throat forgets how to swallow when the horizon blurs. A moth batters the lampshade, your chest rises, mine mirrors it, half a breath behind. Stealing time. Stealing air. If we collapse now, it won't be from touching. It'll be the weight of all we... Don't! Someone's teeth catch a lip. Someone's knee drifts north. The world narrows to the hook of your jawline, that faint vein branching like lightning under parchment. You're still safe for the twitch beneath your eye. A stuttered confession. The lamp flickers. Shadows pool in your collarbones, liquid and restless. I could pour myself there. Become a rumor, a stain, a bruise not yet bloomed. Outside, tires hiss on wet pavement. You exhale a name. Or maybe it's the wind unthreading itself through screen mesh. Your irises darken, eclipsing whatever you've buried there. 3,700 heartbeats. Your heel pivots. Mine doesn't. Wait. Gravity shifts. Air thickens where our shadows fuse, broken only by the tremor in your throat when I lean, Salmost. Static hums between lower ribs, a storm system waiting to fracture the atmosphere. Your fingers ghost across the table's edge. How many lies have pooled there, drowned in condensation rings? I count the flinch of your pulse instead. 23 skips. 23 rehearsals of don't. Rain taps the window. You taste of unfinished sentences. When your palm skims the dip above my elbow, it's not touch, it's archaeology. Unearthing shards of what we haven't shattered yet. Breath tangles with the citrus cologne wreckage of your skin, and isn't this the purest violence? To hunger in still life? The clock stalls. My knuckles graze the hinge of your wrist. A bridge. A blasphemy. Your pupils dilate, two black holes swallowing their own aftermath. Between us, the liturgical hush of sirens 3 blocks east, the creak of floorboards holding their breath, electricity festering in the hollows where we're not touching. You swallow, I mirror it. Drafts carry the musk of wet asphalt, of burnt sugar from the bakery downstairs, decadence rotting at the edges. Your thumb traces a half moon on my palm, tentative as tide retreating. The room sways, splinters. Somewhere, a glass shatters. We don't.